And everyone, this is the conversation that I have been waiting for. I have been looking over at producer Mike for the last week since my good friends, the best doubles team that has ever walked planet Earth, Bob and Mike Bryan, agreed to come on the show. I looked at Mike and I said, let's let it rip, Tater Chip. Let's go. Bob and Mike, how you guys doing?
Good. How you doing, Andy?
Great.
Nice to see this podcast become a reality. I know we were talking about it in Charlotte a few months ago, and I was waiting to text you and say, hey, this is a great podcast, because I knew you would ask us to be on. So I was waiting until we were both ready for this to happen.
Yeah, I think, Mikey, correct me if I'm wrong, if my suspicion of Bob is accurate. I think he was waiting to see if we got canceled in the first 3 weeks. Is that a more accurate representation?
No, man, you're rocking and rolling. But yeah, we had a fun time in Charlotte in December for your foundation. And we told a few stories at your dinner. And You're like, I think I'm going to start a podcast. And you got to let it rip.
Let it rip, Tater Chip. So they don't need me to read off their accolades and superlatives, but I will. The most important part to me personally is being unbelievable teammates during Davis Cup. Selfishly, knowing that I could work Friday, potentially Sunday, and have the greatest doubles team of all time, handle Saturday duties, and never, ever have to worry about being called into action, as well as just having their support throughout the years with a shared common goal, is where my kind of friendship, relationship, respect for these guys grew by leaps and bounds. I first saw you guys, and you all know this because we've talked about it many times, but I first saw you all there. I remember being in Austin, Texas. I was probably like 7 or 8 years old. And, you know, the tennis community in any city is kind of a way to shrink the city. And everyone, you know, every little tennis person knows every little other little tennis person. And they said they're these twins from California, right? And they're better than everyone. They already like play like they're men. And there was this whole thing about you two. Were you actually going to play each other? Because Mikey, tell us what, like your parents didn't let you actually play against each other, right? So like this was like the big rumor mill in junior tennis in Austin, where you guys would get to the semis or finals, and then your parents were like, "No, sir, you're not actually playing each other."
Yeah. My parents wanted us to be best friends. As twins, there's a very delicate dynamic there, and so if one twin starts beating the other twin, you know, that's not good, because you're sleeping in the same bedroom and you're trying to be number one in the world, right? But if you're losing to your twin that's sleeping right across from you, then how are you going to do that? So they knew kind of that was very delicate. So if we met in the finals of tournaments, they would have us flip a coin. And we didn't mind. We were trophy collectors. We were going home both happy. But yeah, I think this was the Texas Open you're talking about. We remember seeing you. We were playing with your brother, right? We were playing with your brother, and we remember you walking around just with a hat on, big shoes, but just gangly and hitting it against the backboard.
Andy, we didn't even take you serious. You know, John, your big bro, was on the national team. We looked up to him. He was kind of like our junior idol, him and Goldstein. And you were just a little tag along. You were playing mini tennis on the sidewalk there in Austin. And, you know, we didn't even take you serious until you hit Sampras with that body serve at Key Biscayne. And then it was, then you kind of moved into the spotlight. But Johnny, I mean, he was a legend at Georgia. We actually played against him in 2 NCAA finals. And
you played him in the, what round? You beat, so my older brother, John, was a 2-time NCAA coach of the year. Great coach, was a good junior, was on the national team, kind of in and around when Bob were there. And then Bob, you beat him in what round of the NCAA singles? Semis?
That was the greatest win of my whole career. I beat him in Athens in the semis, beating a legend, John Roddick, on his home court. Definitely, there wasn't anything better than that for me in my singles career.
That was it.
Yeah.
You could have died a happy
playing
man.
Playing the Bulldogs in Georgia actually got us ready for Davis Cup, because that's the toughest environment in sports. We got to play that team, and the dogs are barking. They're pouring beer on our heads as we got balls, yelling obscenities about our mom. You know, that's actually the most intimidating atmosphere in sports, I would
Wait,
say.
wait. Are you saying that for effect? I mean, we played in front of 30 some odd thousand people in a soccer stadium in Spain. You think
that
Bulldog
was
Nation tougher?
that was pretty intimidating. I mean, it was dizzying to kind of look up and see all those Spanish fans in Sevilla. Yeah, that was cool. But this, when they're getting personal and they're talking about your mom and you can understand the language, and these drunk fraternity guys are just out for blood. You pull your hat down and you try not to look up, because if you make eye contact with these guys, it's over. But that was crazy. Athens, Georgia, nothing like it. I wish the NCAAs would go back to Athens. 6,500 barking dogs, nothing like it.
I've been forever a fan of UGA. My brother went there. I would have gone there had I gone to college. But you talk about Kathy Bryan, you're dead to me. So I'm just saying right now, Bulldog Nation, you're dead to me forever. Kathy Bryan is a saint.
She doesn't
and
no enemies.
How dare you say something to her? You pricks. Love Kathy Bryan, love Wayne Bryan. Always, like when you guys were on tour kind of young also, and had or still have your personalities, which if you don't know the person can kind of get under skin. I played that role for a while. You guys never shied away from a battle. I think Mike's thing where he was ready to ask for forgiveness after the fact. Maybe sometimes. But I always remember, you remember the people that are like really kind to you before you've earned kindness on the tour, right? And your parents were like that from day one, and you all were like that because you were a little bit more established on tour when I came on from day one. Before we kind of switch to some other issues, were you pissed at Bob when he interviewed for the Davis Cup captaincy without you?
I was actually right there with him. I thought he would be perfect for the job. I was actually kind of urging him to do it. He looked at the list of applicants, and it was like Brad Stein, Gil. It was a long list of people, and he didn't really want to like go through the whole process of interviewing for months. And I kind of pushed him there. I would say, Bob, when you, but I said, if you do it, maybe bring me along. I'll be the assistant massage therapist, help you out.
So full circle, Bob. I know that there's pictures floating around of you guys at Davis Cup ties when you're young. Changed my world. I saw the Dallas final in '92. I think we've all been very outspoken about the effect it had on us. Is that effect the same? And do you feel a big responsibility to kind of make sure that Davis Cup has the same impact as it had on us? And is that possible now?
Yeah, that's the challenge, right? We're missing some of those opportunities to inspire those young kids, the next Andy Roddick. You were at the matches. We all saw these young guys like Opelka, Francis Tiafoe, when they're little 11, 12-year-olds at these Davis Cup matches. We're not going to have a home tie here in the States. It's going to be 3 years, I think, come next year. That's a lot of missed opportunities to, bring tennis to smaller markets, yes, but also inspire people like us. So, yeah, I want to keep Davis Cup in the forefront. We loved it. I know we all had this shared goal. You wanted that on your resume. We were talking about it January 1st, all of us. We didn't stop talking about it until we'd won the cup, honestly. And we looked forward to these weeks. I mean, look, we were playing poker. We all had a great time in the hotels, hanging out together, going out after the matches, enjoying those wins. And the atmospheres were insane, Andy. I mean, we were playing in front of 15,000 fans. We had the F-16s flying over, pyrotechnics, the drum lines running out, Darius Rucker singing the national anthem. These are goosebump moments where our knees are actually knocking while we're in the line. Listen to the anthem. There was nothing like that. I would love to see it come back and get to that stage. But I think we have guys that are committed to playing, and they want to win this cup. But yeah, they're not talking about it right now. I can guarantee you it's a little different than when we were around.
I mean, we went to Andy. We went to Croatia right after the U.S. Open, and we went over there and we played at a neutral site against these great teams, right? Like Netherlands. We played against Finland and Croatia, and there were 5 American fans. and you bring a guy over like Francis Tiafoe, who just played a night match on Arthur Ashe Stadium in front of 22,000 American fans. So it's really hard for these guys to get up for it. And they know the next week they're flying over to Vancouver to play the Laver Cup. So it's a lot to ask schedule-wise, but also you'd want these guys to be in these atmospheres where it's exciting. So it's a little bit different, and we got to bring that back to Davis Cup, I think.
How does that happen in its current format, or does it not happen in its current format?
We got to get out of the group stage. We take it to Malaga, hopefully get some excitement in the press, bring over a team of fans. We had those net heads that would come over in hundreds, at awesome. Sevilla. Like there was 27,500 Spanish fans, but we could always look at our net heads, to go nuts for us. Dude, that Sevilla, that was incredible, because I remember that night, the Thursday night before the match, we were almost celebrating when they pulled out Juan Carlos Ferrero, the French Open champion, number 2 in the world. And they were substituting in a teenager named Rafael Nadal, who I think, beat at the US Open 3-4-0 a couple months before. We were all like, oh my God, they're idiots. I can't believe they're putting in Nadal.
Yeah, Roddick will never lose to Nadal on clay. That was dumb of them.
we thought we had a chance. And then, Marty had that short forehand against Moya and went for his head. And the crowd booed for like 30 minutes. That kind of changed a little momentum. And then against Nadal, I felt like Nadal became Nadal in that match in front of his home fans. And you were so disappointed that you had lost to the greatest clay court player of all time, that when we got home and we got our check in the mail, it was like 3 times as big. You sent us your prize money. I don't remember if you realize or remember that. You sent us your money. You said, give it to the Bryans. I didn't earn it. I mean, we kicked it back to your charity, but I don't think you would have given away your prize money had you known this guy would have won 14 French Opens.
Well, I can actually make you a very honest man right now. We played them again in 2008 after Rafa had won, I think, 4 straight French Opens, and I didn't send you guys after that one. No. I don't think Mike was there for that one, so he certainly wasn't getting any money. But I wasn't giving any money away after that one. I felt like I earned my beating in 2008, whereas I let one slip in 04,
I think you had one set that went to 6-4, and we were like celebrating that night. We're having a couple drinks, and you're like, yeah.
Do you guys? This is a side tangent, but do you want to hear one of the most depressing moments of my life, real quick?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so Bob was there. Or was it Mike? Mike, did you play that second one? Or it was Bob and Marty?
I played with Marty Fish. Bob was having his firstborn child, Michaela.
That's right. Okay, that's what it was.
And we played in the Plaza del Toro in that bull ring.
That's right. Yeah. And so it was you guys won double. You guys always won doubles. Didn't matter, who was playing with what. It's like the undersold part is like you guys could just play, and it was great. But in 2008, I remember the Sunday I was playing. I had lost to Ferrer in 5 sets the first day. I think I was down 2 sets and then came back and then lost. It was brutal. And then the morning, so I wake up the morning on Sunday in Spain, and you look out the window and you're going to play Nadal on clay. So I kind of like open like this, and I look out, and it's gray and raining, and I'm like, this sucks. This is a bad beat. I do not need to be playing on him. On anything slower or muddier. So I go warm up, and then they have that like live grainy feed into the locker room where you can see like center court. So I had warmed up, and then all of a sudden I see a wheelbarrow going out onto the court, right? I'm like, what the is that wheelbarrow? And a shovel, and some guy has a shovel, and he's just shoveling clay onto the court, and the other guy's patting it down. I'm like, so the rain, the general goatness of him on clay, I felt like half embarrassed because they were paying so much attention to me for this match when they really didn't need to. I was going to go out and be a dumpster fire anyways. It was a complete suicide mission.
But those were the fun things about the home and away. I mean, when you play on the road, they're going to play us on the slowest, soupiest dirt. I remember Belgium, like they threw dirt down into that indoor arena, and the court wasn't even hardened. The ball was like an explosion. It was like that Powerade commercial that you did. The ball would like stick in the court. It was real. And I think we got a fortunate call. And I remember the Pistone, our security guys, the brothers, running us out of there because that whole place was going to come down on us after we won that match.
It was the single worst call I've ever been the beneficiary of, the one that you're referencing. And I remember walking up to like correct it, and I remember you all and Patrick yelling at me, "Turn the around, go back." So I ended up breaking, and we got producer Mike, like literally we were playing, it's probably only 2,500 people. It wasn't like the biggest stadium ever, but it was like we were going to be relegated, and we win. But they called an overhead out that was maybe 6 inches inside the line. And I had corrected a call earlier that year and given a match away. And so I start walking up, and my entire bench just starts yelling at me, "It's not about you. Move, get back." So anyways, we closed it out.
We needed every point against that little guy, Rokas. He was a magician.
Pound for pound?
Day. Yes.
Pound for pound, one of the best. Didn't he win? He won the French Open in doubles too.
Yep, with Melise.
He could stripe it, man. Anyways, we held serve, and we get trash thrown on us as we're leaving. Like they start throwing things. Like I mean, that was a weird situation.
Davis Cup journey came full circle in Portland. I still feel like that's the highlight of our career. Winning the Davis Cup at the Rose Garden in front of a packed crowd. We played the Russians. It was like a Rocky movie, and I remember you got it done, and James got it done on the first day. So Bob and I had the opportunity to clinch for the country. And when I was serving out the match, I looked over. I saw how emotional you were on the sideline. You were already crying. And, getting it done, kind of the elation, we piled up on the court, took it out late to the clubs, I think we had like a 4 a.m. morning. Oof. I remember you tapped me on the shoulder at like 4 a.m. I think you were drenched in sweat. You'd been dancing all night. And you said, "Hey, guess what? You're playing the Dead Rubber tomorrow." There's live on the tennis channel. You're playing. And then I walk over, I see Bob in the corner. I tap him. I'm like, "Guess what? You're playing the Dead Rubber." and we had this big battle that night, and we actually ended up calling my parents, and then they voted. They're like, "Okay, he's usually been the singles horse. Bob's got to do it." And then I think I pulled an all-nighter with you. Bob had to get some sleep, and played Andreev the next day.
So that went from the best night of my life to the worst night of my life. You guys threw me to the wolves the next day. You might have had a few too many to drink. I don't think you could have passed the breathalyzer test.
Oh no!
On Sunday to play that match. I mean, we had that Davis Cup. I remember we were filling it with booze.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean. I don't understand.
The beer Olympics.
The beer Olympics was good.
Remember,
too.
you had the beer Olympics in Austin. I remember that. We got the invite.
I remember all of my bad decisions. I'm not proud of this moment. I feel badly talking to you now, Bob, especially because you came on this podcast so nicely. So the Davis Cup, I remember I was the nerviest I was I think I was confident that I could beat Torsnov. I think that the popcorn match of that weekend was probably James against Yuzny first up. Yuzny was a really good fast court player. We basically built the fast court for you guys. I think you guys liked slower courts more than we did, but specifically in that matchup, I think who they throw in, like, that was a great court for you all in that final. But when James beat Yuzny, I was really happy because obviously you guys, I was very confident. More like you guys were always like super nervous, and I was always super not nervous when you guys were going in. And I guess that's the nature of sports, but I think it was fitting. We've talked about how I kind of came up short a lot in those Davis Cup ties when we were trying to get to the finish line. But I think it was fitting that you all had it on your rackets to close it out and to close out the shared goal. You were the dominant force for that
we
team.
Didn't have many times to clinch. I think you were 14-0 in clinching fourth rubbers. Like, so when we felt like when we teed you up, you knocked it down all the time, and we were very nervous, like we always were for Davis Cups. It's you're playing for your country, but really you're playing for your brothers. We're taking over 20 people, national team, security, massage therapists, stringers, and you become buddies and friends and blood brothers with all these guys, and you don't want to let them down. They're relying on you to step up. So around Wednesday, our match was Saturday, I really couldn't even talk anymore. I was just in my own head. I think the most nervous we ever were was the 2003, our first Davis Cup match, because you'd been on the team for a couple of years leading up. Pat Mack, he was a little scared to pick us because there's only a 4-man team. He didn't want to have half the team be doubles players. What happens if you rolled your ankle on Friday? So he actually told us that you got to be number one in the world. You got to win a Grand Slam. You got to be a shoo-in to play. So he invited us to the Slovakia match. It wasn't an easy match. It was a relegation tie. Had we lost that, we're going to Jamaica. The next year we're playing Let's with, no doubles alleys or something. But Pat said, "Hey guys, you guys are our team. You're a team for years. Don't worry about this one." But we knew, like, if we lost that one, we're done. And I remember we came out so jacked. We were bouncing around like crazy people. And Mike whispered to me at the end. We're up 2-0. He whispered to me at the end of the third set. He's like, "Hey, I'm cramping." I'm like, "Wait, we're indoors. It's doubles. How are you cramping?" He's like, I felt a twinge in my calf. And then we get to the breaker. He's like, "Dude, I'm full body cramping right now. Just from the nerves, the anxiety, the whole buildup, our first Davis Cup match, he's full body cramping. It's 1-1, one match all." And he's like,
I had come off the US Open and I put you guys in a terrible spot because I lost my first match of that tie to her body.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah, you did. And Mike said, "We got to finish it here." So I remember we have match point. Mike somehow fights a return over the net. A ball goes short in front of Mike. He can't move. I run in front of him. I hit a forehand winner. We end up winning. I come in for the chest bump. He gets like 1 inch off the ground. He's sideways and my hip hits him right in the forehead. And anyway, it was an amazing moment. That was actually the cover of Tennis Magazine back in the day.
I remember that.
It's a weird shot because I'm flying in and Mike can't barely use credit card hops. Yeah. And, but that was our first one. And Pat, trusted us and we became the team. But I felt like we needed to get it done that day. But Mike was cramping. Only time he's ever cramped. And usually you don't cramp indoor doubles match with air conditioning.
And then that started the long journey of Mike going gluten-free, sugar-free, air-free, water-free, whatever the other frees you are.
I would say, remember Doc Farid? He gave us those drinks and he put a lot of creatine in those drinks. And I was pounding those.
Really?
But it was the nerves. I knew if we would have lost that first one, Pat would have said, "Okay, on to the next doubles team." So, when you're tight, everything tightens up, right?
Yeah.
The muscles, and you burn a lot of energy. But luckily, Bob hit that forehand winner and we finished the match because I was full on. I was like a scarecrow out there. I was
a mannequin. It is true though. Like I've never once in my life cramped. You cramp like at the end of the day, like in bed, your toes cramp or something but I've never cramped in practice ever in my life. But then the nerves and the weight of everything, talk about the nerves for most, and I'll put a button on what you guys just said. Like I remember having a conversation with Patrick and he was like, "What do you think about?" I'm like, well, one, the clarity provided as like a singles player of knowing the cadence of your week is like invaluable. But I also said, let's not think of it on like a match by match basis. Like, can we get through this with the insurance policy and throw Marty in, who's, very, very capable doubles player, with someone else and get through? Yeah, probably. But what is our best chance to win this whole thing? And that's the easiest conversation that's ever been had. It's with Bob and Mike. Like, what are we doing? Like, of course it's with them, and there is an element of risk. But my argument was like, I think it's riskier not to have them. Like, I think it's riskier not to have them. So, like, if we're going to talk about risk, I think they win on both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're happy that Pat made that selection.
Yeah,
that you had that opinion because those matches are the ones remember. We're 4 or 5 years into retirement, and those are the ones that still give us those chills, win or lose. We had some tough losses, Andy. You did too. We all felt that bitter taste in our mouth, and those are the ones that keep you up at night. But it's really those emotions that I'm trying to kind of convey to the next generation. The guys that are on the fence about Davis Cup. guys, these are the ones that you're going to really remember when it's all said and done.
Yeah. Another, while we're on the kind of the playing for your country thing, I want you guys to talk about winning the Olympics specifically in 2012. I think it's fitting in an Olympic year, but you all had done all of the things. By 2012, it was kind of readily accepted that you guys were either the best doubles team ever or on your way to becoming the best doubles team ever. So the only argument was about timing and counting stats at that point, but you hadn't won in 2004, you hadn't won in 2008. So talk about going into the 2012 Olympics and the pressure set with knowing that this could be a thing that could potentially, if you don't win it this time, 16 wasn't guaranteed at that moment. 20 certainly wasn't guaranteed at that moment. Talk about you all going into that tournament. Did you talk about it as something different? Did you understand the weight of it? What was that like? And what were the kind of, I guess, the mental ramifications going into that event versus, a slam at that point?
Yeah, 2012, we were 34 years old. 35 years old when Andre retired was ancient. There were no guarantees past mid-30s in singles or doubles. It's all changed now with the longevity we're seeing out there. But there's a sense of urgency with the Olympics, right? Tennis is always about the next opportunity. If you don't win the French Open, you got to crack at Wimbledon. This one, that one. Olympics is different. You got to wait 4 years. You got to be top in your country or you're not going. And everyone always asks us, what would you rather win, a Grand Slam or the Olympics? I think for singles, you take a Grand Slam. You put yourself in the history books. It really validates everything you've done your whole life. I've heard the number, if you win a Grand Slam, is worth 30 million in endorsements and this and that. It opens the door to the Hall of Fame. But for doubles, that's different. You're not making headlines. You're not playing on TV every day. A lot of people don't know the doubles players, but winning a gold medal kind of takes you to that global audience. It's the trophy that everyone wants to hold. I just did career day here at my kid's school, and I brought the gold medal and I passed it around. The kids were freaking out holding it. It's like it's celebrity onto itself. And, we've done charity events where we put the gold medal around people's neck. Hey, we'll charge you $100 for a gold medal pick and we'll raise like 20 grand, so it's really cool. And it was just like the Davis Cup. It was a journey. We didn't win it in 2004 right away. It took a lot of heartache to really get those emotions. And you were crying because it didn't come easy. It's always something that you wanted, but it didn't come easy. In 2004, we were a shoe-in. Sports Illustrated said the Bryans they got the gold. We're on the doorstep of the medal rounds in the quarterfinals. We're watching our opponent, Nico Masu, playing in singles before our doubles match. It's 100 degrees. His face is red. He's playing a 4-hour match. We're licking our chops in the locker room saying he's not even going to play. He wins his singles. We thought he was in default. He goes out for the doubles. We're up a break. His face is just red, and he does a throat slash to his trainer like, I'm done. And we're like, yay, we got medal. And then his trainer runs out and gives him espresso. I don't know, but he became a different guy. And he took us out. It was the only time we ever lost to Masu and Gonzalez in doubles. It was a quiet car ride back to the hotel. We were actually on a flight 3 hours later back to the States. We were so pissed. We didn't enjoy the Olympic experience. We were just wanted out of there. We didn't stay in the village like you did. We stayed at the hotel because we were so focused. And then 2008 comes around and we got to do it. Number one seed again. We make it to the medal rounds. We're in the semis. We lose a heartbreaker at 3 a.m. to some Swiss guys. And we have to play hours later. And in tennis, you lose a match, you're on a flight. But we got to play. We're heartbroken, but we're out there playing for something shiny. We have to leave with a medal. We're playing Lodra Santoro, who beat us in the Wimbledon final. They actually stripped down to their underwear and kind of danced on our grave when we're at the trophy ceremony. So there was some built up stuff against them. Down a break in the third, we win the bronze. Macker, our coach, he's not an emotional guy. He was crying. We go in the locker room, we come around the corner, Lodra Santoro are crying. We're smiles ear to ear. We're dancing to the Swiss national anthem on the medal stand. All hugs. We're going through the security in Beijing airport. The security guy sees this dark disc in our bag. He pulls it out. It's the bronze medal. He's taking pictures with it. We're getting mobbed. We fly home, to California, and we show it to our trainer. Hey, Gary, check out our bronze. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm like, what do you mean you're sorry? This is the best thing that's ever happened to us. He's like, oh, and then we start making excuses for why we won the bronze. It went from the front of our trophy case to the kitchen drawer, and it just became a pain in the ass that we had to tell this long story of why we didn't win the gold. So then, 34 years old, we went to London. There was a sense of urgency. We had to win that gold. It all came together. We won 7 tiebreakers during that time. It was 2 out of 3 sets on grass, doubles, small margins. We got it. We played the French guys again in the finals. And, it was one of those moments, there was no tears on the medal stand. We were in shock. And I think it was Cincinnati a few weeks later that we were in our rental car and we just started screaming. It finally hit us. And I had the gold in my racket bag. I carried it around in my bag for 6 months, brought it out at bars. It was like a chick magnet, and I for Mike, because I was married anyway.
But Bob, I remember your gold medal. It had so many scuffs on it, and it wasn't even a circle anymore. You're handing it out to so many fans; they were dropping it, and it was actually almost a square. And yeah. I kept mine at my house. I shined it up. It was in the front. I had lights shining on it. And then Bob did the old switcheroo. Came out to California and put his little square. It wasn't even gold. It looked silver, and then took my gold out to Miami. And it's pretty funny.
So where do they stand currently then?
Well, it's in the safe, but Mike had this mint condition gold medal in the safe. My ribbon was all tattered, and so I did the switcheroo. I'm like, hey, I want a fresh one. And he called me it was a year later. He was like, you son of a bitch, give me my gold medal back. So he hadn't even looked at it. So anyway, my gold medals got some mileage on it.
I love that. And so the Swiss guys you were referencing, that was Kratishville and Lammer?
Exactly. No, but it was funny. The match before us was a 21-19 in the third. So we got on at 3 a.m. or 1 a.m. and we expected there to be no fans there. But there was a Swiss army of 10,000.
Yeah. People like watching Federer.
Yeah. So do I.
Yeah. I don't. Screw him. So the lot's made of I feel like too often when I'm talking to people about you two, I saw the work and the muscle memory created through practice. One of my favorite things of Davis Cup weeks was because when you're on tour, you're going to practice, you're going to leave. I'm not going to stick around Washington to watch Bob and Mike hit 4 hours after I practice. That's just not the way the orbit goes. When you're on tour, Davis Cup is a different thing. You're all sharing the same transportation. You have a set block. They're on either right before you or right after you. And I feel like too often you guys get explained away by people who even know tennis as, oh yeah, that's the twin thing. I'm like, it's not the twin. They literally spend 8 hours, you'll hit a great volley. They go, oh, that's the twin thing. I'm like, I'm sure there's an element of that. And I want you all to define what that is in a second. But I find myself getting mad that it's become a catch-all for your skill set, which is a joke. Mike, producer Mike, I'll literally watch them. And because they've hit the same ball against each other for so many years, they would go 40 minutes in a practice. This unspoken thing, one would go up, hit volleys, the other one would go, and it wouldn't be like this. There would be no stop. It was this ongoing, rhythmic thing. But I don't that's not a twin thing. That's a lifetime of work thing. And I hate that it gets pigeonholed when someone makes a great cross or a great read or sticks a return. Mike sticking a return, on break point isn't because Bob's close. It's because he's the best returner in doubles history. How do you define the kind of sensory stuff where where the person's going to be versus, the skill set built up? Because I find myself wanting to defend the skill set and work more than kind of giving credit to just you two in proximity. Is that nuts?
We were, as you saw our practices, we were crazy intense, right? Like we really pushed each other. We had our practices like clockwork. We'd done them so many times since literally like 3-4 years old. We were working on doubles coming up when guys are mainly focusing on singles. My dad had us doing these doubles drills and hitting for the alleys. And so when we were out there, we were just moving, but we were practicing like we wanted to play. Pretty much like every shot had a consequence. If I missed a shot, Bob would like roll his eyes. Like he expected the best out of me, held the bar so damn high. Like you saw our practices. They're pretty intense. There'd be some blowups, some stuff said, but we were just holding each other to a really high standard, and we just wanted to be the best, man. Like we wanted to play that Davis Cup in the Olympics, and we knew that we had to be the number one team, and we were perfectionists. We hated to lose, and every day in practice, it felt like we were playing matches. So that goes into it, but also the twin dynamic and sharing a womb together and practicing every day together and being in the hotel room playing music together. That whole team chemistry and twin energy, that felt like when we were on the court, it was like one blob of energy. It was like this two-headed monster. We were moving together, covering for each other. There's this kind of unspoken communication where it really did flow well. We were anticipating. I could look at Bob's face and know what he was feeling, where he's going to hit his serve. We didn't really even speak in between points, right? We just used a couple code twin language words, and we like to play quick. But communication was our biggest strength, but it could also be our biggest foe, right? The sibling tension could sometimes surface on the practice court, sometimes in matches. It would bubble up. When you're playing with your brother in high pressure moments, right? You feel like you can say anything to your bro that you wouldn't say to a normal partner. Like I wouldn't say that but your twin, you've shared a room with forever. You share a bank account with, right? Then things are said that are pretty hurtful. I know exactly Bob's weak spots. I know all his insecurities, and I'll drop a little bomb, and sometimes it'll explode. We played our best when we didn't say much, but there were a few moments where it did happen, and we're not proud of it, right? But I think it's normal as brothers. If you're a brother, and especially a twin, you're going to have these moments. And I worked every day with my bro, and it's like you're going to the office, and we're taking it so seriously. So yeah, there are a few, and I know we talked about these in Charlotte, and I know you probably brought us on your podcast to maybe mention a couple of these moments.
Yes, in no uncertain terms, yes, because there's a couple I want to just reference, and then I would like you all to take it wherever you want. There was a guitar situation in London one time. There was someone getting knocked out in Australia, which I only learned about like 6 months ago. And don't spare us details. Tell us kind of when this relationship, which on paper, and you guys have always been so fluent with media, you're the first two people out growing the game every week. You guys are like, without knowing these moments of stress, you're like a walking Doublemint commercial, right? It's like you're like a half polo ad, half like, you could sell anything. You could sell, ice to someone in Alaska. But tell us a couple of these stories.
I'll take it back to 2006. We hadn't won Wimbledon. The year before, we played Huss Moody in the finals. They were a qualifier team. On paper, that's a gimme. They're the only qualifying team to win Wimbledon. We lost that match. 2 weeks before, we lost the Wimbledon final, or the French Open final. We had break points in the third, didn't get it done. Show up at Wimbledon, just kind of being there a year later after not winning against the qualifier team. There was some tension. The monkey was growing on our back. It was the only one we hadn't won, like I said. We're playing first round on a field court. There's only 20 20 people on this side of the court, 20 people on the other side of the court. We're in the weeds, and we're playing Jordan Kerr and Amir Delic, a fellow American. We should get this one done in straights and move on. We're down a break, two sets to one, and a break in the fourth, a break in the fifth. We scrape by. We went 11-9 in the fifth. A lot of people would be relieved and happy. We were pissed off, and we're discussing the match in the transportation car going back to the Airbnb, and we're both playing Monday morning quarterback, pointing, and those pointing fingers we turn into shoves, and then now we're swinging at each other. The car's rocking side to side.
In the car in the drive. By the way, don't let me interrupt for too long. But like, you have drivers, this is a volunteer position, right? And so maybe and they're normally like tennis fans, like, you know, you get conversation, and they do us such a service every week. But imagine being like, oh my God, it's gonna be cool. The Bryans are coming. They're the best doubles team in the world. Okay, go, Bob.
So this poor lady, she's scared for her life. The car's going side to side. The car's swerving. Our coach is in the front seat. He's trying to reach back and break it up. Anyway, we get to the house. It's kind of settled down a little bit. We're getting our bags out of the car, and Mike bitch slaps me in the face. And then he takes off running up the stairs. And I just drop my bag. I'm running after him. He grabs the rails of the stairs and mule kicks me off the stairs into the bushes. And I just bounce up like Terminator, and I'm running after him. We run all the way to the third floor. He locks himself in the bathroom. I barely miss him. I'm banging on the door like a scene out of The Shining, and I can't get it. I can't get in. So all I see is his shiny prized possession, his Taylor guitar, and I splintered that thing. That thing, you couldn't take it to a repair shop and put it back together. That thing was toast. But the funny thing is, like 5 minutes later, we're having dinner. And that's the freaky thing about twins. We always say when we see friends, we're like, those are freaks. Or twins, those are freaks. Because we're having dinner 5 minutes later, and I actually realized, damn, we share a bank account. Guitar was half mine, you know? So I just blew up half of my guitar too. But it released a little steam. Like, we would, being the number one team, you know, having those expectations, keeping the bar high in everything we did, it would boil up, and we would let it out, and we're not proud of it of sometimes these ways. But we went on to win the tournament, and we played some of our best tennis because that kind of locked us back in. And we let go of all that stuff from the year before, from the French Open, and then it flowed. So, yeah, I mean, and I know you want to talk about, you know, the time that one of us was knocked out. No one knows that story. We told it at your charity event. I think we had a couple. But
I have a follow-up, and then I want to get to the knockout. But Mike, the hit and run is an interesting play for you because obviously technical volleys, return. You're like the Tim Duncan. Like, everything is just kind of perfect. You're just in the position you need to be. You make it look easier than it is. But speed, I'm going with Bob. Did you think you were going to get away with a hit and run?
Looking after the team, I mean, I knew Bob could have killed me. I saw the look in his eye, and he was coming at me like a bull. And I had to lock the door. And literally, like, he was coming through the door like, not here comes Johnny, here comes Bobby. Right? He's coming through the door, right? But, you know, it is weird. Like, we always knew we were a package deal, and these fights get buried pretty quick, and we knew we were always going to stay together, so we would have these blow-ups, and they actually led to greater times, greener pastures. If this happened with, like, Knowles and Nestor or anyone, you know, they'd never talk again, right? But it's funny. And then, yeah, I mean, the one in 2017, this is probably our biggest of them all. And we've only told this story one time and to a few people at your charity event. And so right now we're going live with it, right? But it was kind of a dark period of our career. We hadn't won a slam for a couple of years. Our chemistry
Can you imagine,
was
Mike,
off.
Producer Mike, can you imagine not winning a slam for a couple of years? What losers.
our chemistry was fractured, right? Bob was living in Miami. I was in California. Our coach even let us go. Like Macker said, "Hey, you guys are too far gone." He actually fired us.
Come
So
on.
this is after the Open, when the hopes of winning the Slam are gone. You're playing indoors. You don't see the sun for days. We're in Antwerp in a dungeon playing cards. I'm going through a tough personal life event. I'm getting a divorce, right? I'm checking my phone. I'm trying to check for lawyers, but we're playing cards. We like to play cards, and we're playing hearts, $1 a point. Bob's killing me. He's Venmoing me for $1,000 every couple days, and he's the dealer. I see that he kind of bottom dealed me, so I give him a whack on the back of the head, right? And I did that I gave him like maybe 10 love taps during that week because I was stressed, right? And then he looked at me. He's like, "If you ever do that again, I'm gonna knock you out."
So fast forward a couple months. Like Mike said, we're looking for some magic in our careers. We hadn't had it in a couple of years. We grabbed that Babolat racket that you're used to. We're stubborn with this Prince. There's no technology on this Prince racket. We were like, hey, we need a little extra pop. We have the Babolat. We're down in Australia. We only use it for a week. We're playing our first round match, Aussie Open backcourt. A hot day, windy, balls are flying. We're playing two guys we've never heard of. We've heard of them now, but at the time, Nishioka and Fucsovic, we had no clue who these guys were. And we're losing, and balls are getting away. Anyway, Mike has some overheads, doesn't put them away, end up losing the point. And I say, hey, let's put it away next time, jackass. And he hit me on the back of the head again. He gave me one of those taps on the back of the head, and he was behind me. As a reflex, I was triggered. I just turned and I swung. I didn't know where I was swinging, but I caught Mike perfect right in the back of the head, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes. And I'm like, oh God. And I look down, he's just laying there motionless, and I give him a couple shakes, and I don't get anything. And then suddenly his eyes pop wide open like Bob Barker. And he goes, congratulations, you just made Sports Center. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then he wobbles to his chair, gets smelling salts, does this whole song and dance with the trainer. And anyway, we got kind of scared. We're like, oh God, that's never happened. The crowd was actually laughing because they thought it was like a skit, like Mansur Barami. And the only people that weren't laughing was our coach, Macker, and this guy, Dave Marshall. They knew the history from Antwerp. They knew what I said to Mike with the card games. They knew Mike was actually out cold. And just like we did, we locked in, we won the match in 3 sets. We go back to the locker room, and I'm like, hey, Mike, we got to get our story straight here, man. We're going into a press conference. We expect it to be packed. A couple hundred journalists want to know about the first time that someone's been knocked out on a Grand Slam match. And I'm like, hey, let's just get it straight here. Let's just, say, hey, we faked it, blah, blah, blah. Mike's like, hey, tell him the truth, man. Tell him you sucker punched me. I'm like, I'm going to tell him that, you hit me on the back head. I told you I'd knock you out, and I did. Anyway, we walked slowly to this press conference, and we open the door, and there's 2 people. It's Bill Simon, and no one even knows about it. Federer was losing to Seppi on center court. Every eyeball in that whole site was on Federer. It went unnoticed. I guess the TV didn't really pick it up. Nadia, Mike's current wife, was actually watching her first tennis match at the time. And she was watching it from New York, and she texted my wife, Michelle, back in Florida and said, what just happened there? And Michelle's like, don't worry about it. I get it. Don't worry. I see this every day. So anyway, the only guy that actually had footage of this is this guy, Dusan Vimic, one of our buddies. And he put it to like a boomerang techno beat and had Mike going down, popping back up like a little puppet. But anyway, like Wimbledon in 2006, it kind of released this tension. And at 40 years old, we kind of went on a little bit of a resurgence. Finals Indian Wells, won Miami, won Monte-Carlo, finals of Madrid before I blew my hip out. and we went back to number one in the world. But it all started with Mike dropping like a sack of potatoes.
Oh my God, these stories are so
A little
great.
bit of a cheap shot. Yeah, I remember trying to read the menu that night at dinner, and the words were a little fuzzy. I told the waitress to turn on the lights.
Yeah, he had a
Oh, man.
concussion.
This is we're actually, I'm glad you guys are here because I'm announcing that we're actually, the podcast is over, Mike. This is it. Those stories are peak, and we're not having anyone on ever again.
We don't condone violence. Like these are some low moments, but like we're as close as we've ever been. Like we didn't hold any grudges, but we never fractured. Like we didn't go back to the locker room and, hey, Bob knocked me out. We didn't go talk about this to other players. You see that sometimes in losses and tough matches, the players split up. They go to opposite sides of the locker room and they start talking behind each other's back. We never did that. We always sat right next to each other. We took our lumps and
literally,
literally. But like we played thousands of matches together. It's going to get ugly sometimes.
So let's do an awkward transition into pride. Because as much pride as I have in these stories, because I think the way that you tell them and this whole twin thing that you have is like something that outside looking in is just not something that anyone can understand. Even if you could understand the twin thing, like imagine taking that into these pressure situations, a lifetime of work, realizing you're dependent on someone else. Like it's just the layering of what you all have done, the mental gymnastics involved, the shared of money, houses, like your personal lives that you know someone so intimately back. I mean, it's just like I think it's just a fascinating story, and I think these funny stories kind of give just like a little glimpse. And frankly, I think I like them because they're endearing, and also it makes you guys feel like normal. Right, like there's this like excellence, but also mixed in is like this petulance that we all kind of feel sometimes. When you all kind of look back at the totality of your career, right? So winning every major, all the Master Series, Olympics, Davis Cup. What are your kind of biggest pride points, either for the other person, like we did it together, or is it titles, or is it, consistency? What are the kind of the biggest pride points where you look back and like what makes you emotional looking back?
We played for 23 years together. And we did stay together. Yeah, we had our moments, but we did it as a team, as brothers. That's what really made that process on the tour special. You got your best friend on the road doing it. And it wasn't always high moments, right? We had, I don't know how many Grand Slam finals we lost. We had some really difficult ones, right?
14.
14. It's a lot, right? But we stuck it out. And just to be able to now share that kind of beyond the court now and just kind of reminisce. And I feel like our relationship's tighter now than it's ever been. We got kids. We want them to all play together. But looking back, we went really hard and we have really no regrets just because we didn't take any vacations. Right after we came back from the World Tour Finals, we were back working out together in the gym. We just really professional and just really, we set the bar really high and we wrote down our goals every year. And we really went after them together. Like kind of had this shared energy, this shared mission, this shared focus to do it and to help promote doubles. Cause I mean, doubles was suffering a little bit during the middle of our career. So we wanted to make doubles bigger and kind of, have a platform there. But to make it through the mire of all those, ups and downs, kind of the roller coaster, and stay strong with your twin, and we have unconditional love for each other. So that's probably what I'm most proud about.
Bob.
Yeah, look, I mean that kind of summarizes our bond, our relationship, which is at the end of the day the most important. That we are still talking to each other. We live on different sides of Florida, but we're on the phone 4 times a day. If I see something cool at a Heat game, I'm calling Mike, oh, dude, this guy had this dunk, so we still share this bond. I would love to see Mike get down to Miami and, get the band back together, because we've spent millions of hours jamming together. But yeah. And look, I was proud of Mike when I was injured. I had my hip replaced. I was proud Mike went out and he won a couple more slams with Jack Sock. Yeah. Did that hurt me to see him out there having success without me? For a moment, it did. It was tough. When he was playing the Wimbledon final on TV, I was in the gym doing push-ups. And, but at the end of the day, I was actually proud of him. That's a Bryan out there representing. And he took me back. I got my hip replaced. And then 5 months later, he took me back. He didn't have to. And, one of my greatest moments is actually coming back and defending that Miami Open title in my backyard, with a metal hip, and doing that with Mike. That was the one time I actually got a little misty-eyed out during the trophy ceremony.
We've taken plenty of looks backwards. As the two guys that will forever kind of define peak in doubles, because, I think your numbers are so safe because the ability to kind of keep going even through those moments, instead of switching partners, even the most successful partnerships are I'm telling you, your business, 6-7 years at a time. And then something happens or someone marries someone and it just doesn't always work out. So one, that responsibility, and also there's a lot of new talk around different doubles formatting. How do you see the future of doubles playing out, and what can you two do to kind of spread the gospel of doubles, even though you're not currently in it week to week? How do you still have that footprint in the game, and specifically in doubles?
Yeah, I mean, look, doubles has evolved a lot over the years. The 80s, you had the Cernbali, Mac Fleming. Everyone was playing kind of similar to their singles games. Courts were faster. There's a lot more singles players playing. 90s came along. You had the Woodies introducing some poaching and strategy. 2000s come along. We come along with kind of a power doubles. We're getting close to the net. A lot of movement. Now it's gone to kind of an exclusive I formation, which I'm not sure that doubles was ever meant to be played like this. There's been these changes that are going to be implemented soon. Pace of play, which I like all these new initiatives. Fans can come in on change during the play. They can come in on the sides of the court. 15-second shot clock, less changeovers. I think this all helps the product of doubles, makes it more entertaining. What's worrisome is that the 12-day tournaments that are singles tournaments they're going to streamline it to 5-day doubles tournaments. So this means less hotel rooms that tournament directors have to pay for. So they're maybe streamlining the doubles event to save money. And that's kind of what we were dealing with in 2005 when we filed that lawsuit, and we helped kind of bring back doubles a little bit. So we're still on the road. We're going to Wimbledon. I'm Davis Cup captain. Mike's there with Davis Cup going to the Olympics. We're going to spread the gospel and try to keep doubles where it should be. I think the doubles players could help out by staying together a little longer. Maybe have countrymen playing together. I think doubles could have even been bigger had the Indian Express, Payas, Bupati stayed together longer. They were household names, a crazy phenomenon in India. But you're right, it's like a marriage, and marriages don't always work out. And there's a lot of pressure. There's points money, there's travel, and teams break up. But if the countries could stay together, especially during an Olympic year, if they could wear the names on the back of the shirts, fans might start to recognize these guys. It'd gain traction. There's a few things that could be done, but I do think the pace of play initiatives coming out are going to help.
Looking forward, you mentioned, and I've always thought you guys were really interesting also, because you kind of become obsessed with stuff away from the court also. Like as much of a maniac as Mike is about everything, he kind of takes that away from the court also. And you kind of made a quick reference to your band, but like every single week ever, like you would, if you're staying at the same hotel and you're walking down the hallway, you would hear music coming from from their room. And it's something you guys have become great musicians. And I know Michaela sang the national anthem at the U.S. Open. So it's weird that you kind of have this sub job, but you've trained yourself to be good in even a different space. It's like you didn't get enough of each other, having to play off of each other for paychecks. You had to do it in your spare time too for a long time.
Yeah, music's a huge passion in our lives. I feel like you do have a lot of time on tour. You practice, and then you have a lot of free hours. So we felt like that secondary passion was huge for us. Bob would always bring his keyboard. I'd bring a travel guitar, and we'd have that time in hotel rooms working on our chops, and jamming together. But it all goes back to my dad. He was, he didn't allow TV in our house. So we had these instruments in our living room. So he taught us how to play, all the oldie songs growing up. When we went off to Stanford, we started kind of learning the theory of music a little bit and studying it. A lot of our friends are musicians just because we love music so much. But yeah, then we started this band thing, right? And we had this album out in 2008. We had dreams of being rock stars too, but it never materialized. We printed like 10,000 of these CDs, and they're sitting in a warehouse in Atlanta right now.
I want to comment on that because I was a big part of helping write these songs and getting this out on iTunes and expecting the dollars to just flow in from these songs. And there was a decision, how many albums do you want to print? And I'm like, let's print 10,000 of them. We'll sell them at the shows and at the tournaments, and they're going to go like hotcakes.
Yeah.
And eventually we started calling these things Frisbees because we just toss them off the stage. And then how many t-shirts do you want to print? Let's print 10,000. And so we have a warehouse that we're paying for still to this day, holding a bunch of this junk. So if anyone wants a free album and a t-shirt, Bryan Bros Band, it's yours. But
we have a couple of highlights. We had you on stage singing Ice Ice Baby maybe 15 years ago, and you killed that. That's somewhere on YouTube. And then we have this one song called Autograph, and we had Novak and Andy Murray rap a verse on it. We actually had Andy Murray read it. He was on the massage table, and we were like, can you just read this? And we recorded it. And we threw it up on iTunes. We had him just read the lyrics. We're just like, hey, man, can you just read this? I don't even know if he knew we were going to put it up on iTunes, but we had Novak do it. And the BBC played it a few times and he just got roasted. Every talk show would go on. They'd play it as he walked out, and it just followed him. I remember Judy Murray came up to us. She's like, what'd you do to my son? But yeah, I mean, we love it. We have this one gig in Indian Wells. We play at the food court. So we played at the food court 12 years in a row, and that's our Super Bowl, right? And we have these great musicians that join us. Jim Bogios from the Counting Crows, James Valentine from Maroon 5's helped us out. And yeah, so we're still going hard in the studio and stuff, but yeah,
where do for our 11 listeners, where would they be able to find one of those old Frisbees t-shirts or download some of your greatest hits?
You cannot find the album or the t-shirt. Maybe we'll just bring a truck full to our next tournament that we go to. But you can see our songs on Spotify, and cool. We have, I think, 50 monthly listeners on Spotify. So hopefully this podcast increases that a little bit. But Autograph's the one because we got Djokovic and Murray to sing this before they became Djokovic and Murray. Now these are two of the greatest players of all time. And so this might take off now.
All right. I know we have at least 50 listeners, so I expect all of you, if you're listening to this and you've made it this far, you have nothing better to do. You can spend another 12 seconds and go listen to the show.
We'll put a link in the show descriptions.
Perfect.
Click down.
Perfect.
Let's double that number.
I'm not going to take any more of their time. Bob and Mike, you know that I've always appreciated you. You're an inspiration to me. When I came out, you won a slam before I did, and thankfully for you, you kept winning them afterwards. But I think shared experience is the biggest source of bond. Obviously, you all have tons of shared experience, but I've appreciated our shared experience and common goal. I know I can say without a doubt I would not be a Davis Cup champion without the two of you. I hope in at least a smaller version, you feel the same. Anything you guys ever need, you let me know. You guys are the best. There's only one best doubles team of all time, and you just heard from them. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Mike.